And over just the course of a few hours today, the alliance between President Trump and Elon Musk taking a sharp and public turn for the worst. The president now threatening to revoke Musk's government contracts, the billionaire saying Trump ungrateful for his help. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore.
And President Trump's relationship with Elon Musk went downhill fast on Thursday as Trump broke days of silence and unloaded on Musk, saying he's really disappointed in Elon. It comes after Elon Musk called Trump's big, beautiful bill a disgusting abomination, adding that it's going to add to the national deficit.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
And Trump suggests that Musk pulled in 180 because the bill would slash credits for electric vehicles and because he just pulled a nomination for a Musk ally to lead NASA.
Elon's upset because we took the EV mandate.
Meanwhile, just a few weeks ago, as Musk was leaving Doge, the two lavished praise on each other.
He's done a fantastic job. He didn't need this. He didn't need it.
The sudden open feud turned more drastic as the two men took the fight on Thursday to their own social media platforms. As Trump suggests,
he actually went up and campaigned for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway.
Musk saying on X, quote, "Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Such ingratitude." Musk spent hundreds of millions of dollars backing Trump's 2024 campaign while personally rallying for him in swing states. In the first few months of the administration, Trump gave Musk massive power in slashing the federal workforce until Musk's 130-day tenure came to an end as a special government employee. But on Thursday, Trump says he asked Musk to leave as Musk was, quote, "wearing thin." In a more solid threat, Trump on Truth Social calls terminating Musk's governmental subsidies and contracts the easiest way to save money in our budget. Musk responds by announcing that SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. If Trump follows through on his threat on ending Musk's contract, it would have a massive impact for Musk's companies. Last year, Musk's companies, including SpaceX, were promised $3 billion across nearly 100 different contracts with 17 federal agencies. In other news, President Trump talked to China's Xi Jinping for 90 minutes on Thursday. Trump says that the two sides resolved complexities surrounding the Geneva trade deal, in particular when it comes to China's rare earth mineral exports. And that administration previously accused China of blocking despite the trade agreement. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
9-0 Supreme Court ruling Wisconsin violating the First Amendment by denying a Catholic charity group a tax exemption. The court made it easier to claim reverse discrimination in the workplace. Plus, in another unanimous decision, the court blocking Mexico's claims that U.S. gun makers fueled cartel violence. NTD's Arlene Richards has a Supreme Court update.
3 unanimous decisions in one day. The Supreme Court released decisions on Thursday that impact religious exemptions, employment discrimination, and gun maker responsibilities. First, the court sided with a Wisconsin-based Catholic charity group in a case centered on unemployment tax credits for religious institutions. The decision delivered a victory for faith-based institutions who had argued the state's decision not to grant the exemption violated the First Amendment. 9 justices unanimously agreed the state had unnecessarily attempted to define whether religious groups should be entitled to an otherwise available tax exemption. They said the state analyzed the group's entitlement based on the state's criteria for religious behavior. The Wisconsin Supreme Court had previously ruled the group was not operated primarily for religious purposes, since it serves and employs non-Catholics and doesn't require participants to practice the Catholic faith. In Ohio, the court unanimously allowed a straight woman to revive her reverse discrimination case. The justices found that the Civil Rights Act does not limit members of the majority group from filing discrimination claims. Marlene Ames, who worked for the Ohio Department of Youth Services for 2 decades, sued under the landmark law. She claimed the department passed her over for a promotion and then demoted her in favor of gay colleagues. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, writing the opinion for the court, said Congress intended for the law to apply to every individual with no special requirements for members of the majority group. And finally, in this Supreme Court roundup, the High Court justices agreed U.S. gun manufacturers can't be blamed for gun violence in Mexico. The country claimed their case should proceed because it satisfied an exception to the liability shield provided to gun makers under federal law. Mexico said U.S. gun makers knowingly aided and abetted the unlawful sale of their firearms to straw purchasers who trafficked them across the border to drug cartels. The justices ruled that because their claims didn't accuse gun makers of directly aiding and abetting retail dealers, it was barred under the law. The Mexican government had sued 7 of the biggest gun makers in the U.S. They were seeking $10 billion in damages. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Small businesses could be getting a helping hand from some new bipartisan legislation. Here now to talk about the new bill's co-sponsor aimed at doing that, Democratic Congressman Sri Thanadar of Michigan. You're actually sponsoring a bipartisan piece of legislation called the Plain Language and Contracting Act. Walk us through what this bill does and how it might help to level the playing field for some small businesses trying to work within the federal government.
For 25 years, I ran small businesses, created jobs. So I understand the difficulties small businesses face. Many of the small business grants programs, loans programs are difficult to access, especially for small mama-papa shops. These small shops, the owners are so busy providing services to their customers, working on marketing, getting revenues up, keeping up with the payroll, and some of the paperwork burden to qualify for small business loans or grants is just excessive. Small business owners don't have hours and hours to spend on these regulations. They don't have highly paid consultants that they could hire and afford to hire. So these regulations need to be made easier, simpler language, easier to access the forms on the website, one place where they can know if they qualify for certain incentives or not. So what I, along with my Republican colleague, Congressman LaLota, we really worked together. This was a bipartisan effort to help small businesses, streamline the regulations, make it easier, simpler, plain language, so that an average small business owner, a mama-papa shop, can get to the website, get things done, apply for the incentives that they get, and they know what is available, what's not.
China currently owns more than 370,000 acres of U.S. farmland, some near sensitive military installations. At the same time, Ukraine's use of drones has reshaped modern warfare. How concerned should Americans be about potential vulnerabilities here at home? And as a senior member of the Homeland Security Committee as yourself, what actions are being taken to shore up these risks, especially where foreign land ownership is involved right here on American soil?
We should be of a substantial concern. We need to protect our homeland. We need to protect from attacks, terrorism attacks. China is a threat. They are in direct competition with us. And we have already seen a number of instances where Chinese government-connected organizations have, attempted to take our intellectual data from universities. So we must watch the Chinese actions very carefully. We have seen many researchers at major universities transferring protected data, scientific data, to the Chinese government. And this is of grave concern. The Chinese have not always played with good practices, ethical practices, and it is important that for the sake of our security, for the sake of protecting our borders, for the sake of protecting our intellectual data, we must watch very carefully foreign-owned land in America, what activities are happening on this land, and certainly with the drone attacks that happened in Ukraine, it is of grave concern because some of these facilities are very close to our military operations. Some of these foreign-owned land are closer to our chemical plants, nuclear facilities. So all of these are has certain amount of danger. We've already seen Chinese aggression at our ports. We've seen Chinese aggression at cyber security attacks on our installations. So this must be taken very seriously. There should be a proper monitoring of these foreign-owned lands in the United States, and any activity that happens on these lands that could be a danger to our homeland must be controlled, must be watched, and action must be taken to protect our homeland.
Congressman, I do want to get your thoughts on the reconciliation bill that did pass the House of Representatives, now being debated in the Senate. How do you expect this legislation to evolve in the upper chamber? And as it stands right now, what would the practical impact be on your constituents back in Michigan?
Well, look, I voted no on this, what Mr. Trump calls the big, beautiful bill. It's really probably one of the ugliest bill that I ended up voting no on. This bill, cuts down Medicaid. Nearly more than 20% of my constituents use Medicaid for life-saving treatment. And there is a huge concern among my constituents. The uncertainty. Someone just recently told me her son is on life-saving medication. Will that treatment continue? There is a lot of concern. Lives will be lost if this becomes a law, and millions and millions of people are thrown out of health care coverage. Same thing goes with food assistance. Substantial part. My district, 13th district in Michigan, is one of the poorest districts in America. Nearly 25% of my constituents are at or below level of poverty. Having grown up in poverty myself, I understand the struggles of putting food on the table and cutting down on the nutritional program, which is really only $6 per person per day. And the Republicans are trying to cut food assistance, taking literally food away from the mouths of hungry children, hungry constituents. So I strongly oppose this bill. Not only this bill uses this money that they're trying to save from social programs to give tax breaks to the rich and to the corporations, but it also raises our deficit to the tune of over $2 trillion.
Congressman Shri Thandadar, appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
And joining us from Capitol Hill right now with a Republican perspective is Riley Moore, who will also share about his proposed legislation to stop visas for operatives coming out of communist China. Congressman Riley Moore, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you with us, Congressman. So I want to start by getting your thoughts on the reconciliation bill, which will ultimately pull back much of the Biden-era spending, like the Inflation Reduction Act. How do you respond to critics of the bill who say it's cutting needed programs like Medicaid and so on and so forth?
Well, no, it's not cutting Medicaid at all. The only people who are losing Medicaid are actually illegal immigrants, which shouldn't have had Medicaid to begin with. And so there's going to be a shift in the FMAP for states that are providing Medicaid to illegal immigrants currently. which their FMAP on their expansion population is going to go from 90% to 80%, which that is pretty fair, which hard to argue with that. Other than that, there's work requirements that have been put on Medicaid for able-bodied individuals, and they don't even actually necessarily need to be working. They can also be looking for a job, volunteer their time, any of those other types of things. So now, if you don't want to lose Medicaid, if you currently need Medicaid, you're not losing Medicaid. So there's not going to be any cuts for individuals who traditionally have needed this program.
Congressman, switching gears a little bit, you've been a very outspoken critic of the Chinese Communist Party. President Trump has now blocked Harvard from enrolling international students and researchers, saying America's adversaries, including the CCP, are compromising our national security through higher education. Talk to us about the scope of infiltration that you're seeing on U.S. college campuses and how urgent you think this is.
Well, the president is 100% right, and it's systemic around the entire apparatus of higher education here in the United States. What people need to keep in mind is currently China has 300,000 of their citizens here on student visas across our college campuses here in the United States, and they are an adversary. And now I don't remember during the Cold War us handing out 300,000 visas to the Soviet Union. Now, did we? That certainly wouldn't make any sense. We've seen time and time again, folks who are on these visas have been caught spying. There was also a report that was recently done by the Stanford newspaper that exposed the intel gathering and spy ring that currently exists at Stanford University. By the way, these two individuals who were caught just recently trying to smuggle this fungus into the country that would have devastating effects on us, particularly in the agriculture space, they were on student visas, a J-1 student visa. That's University of Michigan. And let me remind you, University of Michigan, we had several Chinese nationals on student visas there as well who were caught spying in a joint military exercise in between the Taiwanese and the U.S. military up in one of the Great Lakes. So this is happening all the time. That's why I've introduced a piece of legislation called the Stop the CCP Visas Act, which would end all student visas for Chinese nationals here in the United States.
Congressman, a Wall Street Journal article outlines how Harvard is educating up-and-coming CCP officials, but it's not just there. They have 2-week programs, shorter programs that have high-level officials in Beijing central government coming to Harvard's JFK school. Xi Jinping's daughter also reportedly studied at Harvard. How concerning is all of this to you?
Well, it's extremely concerning. And so we're opening ourselves up to this. It's like, why are we educating our adversaries in the world to make them better at supplanting our position? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So that's why I have this Stop the CCP Visas Act. And I'm urging Congress to hopefully take it up soon and pass it, because the president is correct. And you've also seen Secretary Rubio talk about this as well. This is a national security threat to the United States, and we have to stop it.
How will your bill complement the White House's actions on China?
Well, it will codify it into law. It'll prevent all further student visas from being issued. It will become the law of the land, and we will no longer issue student visas.
Now, another big headline today and yesterday, President Trump announcing new travel restrictions on citizens from more than a dozen countries. He cited reasons such as terrorist activity, hostile governments, and higher chances of visa overstay, which we saw in Boulder, Colorado, that terrorist attack. What kind of implications will this have on our national security?
Well, it'll strengthen our national security. And President Trump is doing the right thing. We just saw that terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado, an Egyptian national on a visa in which that individual had overstayed and committed a horrific terrorist act. So we need to stop those things. He's targeting the right countries to keep our citizens safe here in the United States. He's got my 100% support on that.
Congressman Riley Moore, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.